The cold wind whipped Emily's face as she sped down the deserted highway. The night was dark and unwelcoming, rain drumming on the roof of her old Ford. Emily was returning home after a long shift at the hospital, dreaming of a hot shower and a soft bed. Suddenly, the bright headlights illuminated a strange figure in the middle of the road. Emily slammed on the brakes, and the car skidded on the wet asphalt. Her heart was pounding wildly as she tried to make out what was blocking her path. It was a dog, huge, skinny, and soaking wet. It stood motionless, staring directly at Emily with burning eyes. Behind it, shivering from the cold, huddled several puppies. Emily turned on the hazard lights, trying to comprehend what was happening. The dog didn't move from its spot, clearly intentionally blocking the car's path. "Come on, move!" Emily muttered, looking into the animal's eyes. She honked, but the dog didn't even flinch. The puppies behind it whimpered pitifully, pressing against each other. Something wasn't right here. Emily reached for her phone to call for help, but then the dog made a strange movement. It didn't run away or dart to the side, but slowly, almost pleadingly, lowered its head and took a step towards the car. A chill ran down Emily's spine. She had never seen a dog behave like this. Emily looked at the animal, and it looked back. There was something human in that gaze, something desperate. "What do you want?" Emily whispered, turning on the flashlight on her phone and carefully opening the car door. But the dog didn't back down. On the contrary, it took a step back, as if inviting Emily to come out. Emily's heart clenched. What if something horrible was hiding behind this? She took a deep breath before stepping out of the car. The cold air immediately pierced her skin, and the rain drummed on her shoulders. The flashlight in her hand illuminated the thin dog, whose wet fur clung to its body. It stood still, staring intently at Emily with pleading eyes. The puppies behind it huddled together, whimpering softly. But something about the adult dog's behavior made Emily uneasy. The dog didn't rush towards her, didn't show aggression, but it didn't run away either. It took another step back, then another, and stopped again. It was calling her to follow. "Do you want me to go with you?" Emily whispered, not understanding why she was speaking out loud. The dog didn't move, its tail twitching nervously. Emily looked at the puppies. Their tiny bodies were shaking, but they weren't running away, they weren't wild, they weren't afraid of people. Something wasn't right. Emily looked around. There was no one in sight. The road stretched into darkness, hidden behind trees. She looked back at the dog. It stood like a statue, but its eyes spoke louder than any words. Something inside Emily told her she needed to go. She carefully took a step forward. The dog immediately turned and darted towards the edge of the forest, but it didn't run away. It stopped, turned, and waited. "Oh my God," Emily muttered, feeling a rising sense of unease, but she couldn't just get in the car and leave. Looking back at the puppies, she took a step forward, then another, until she was at the edge where the wet grass clung to her boots. The dog moved forward. Emily followed it. Each step she took was accompanied by the beating of her heart, which grew louder with each passing second. The rain was seeping under her jacket, slowing her down, but something inside urged her to move faster. Finally, amidst the sound of the raindrops and the pounding of her heart, another sound broke through. Emily froze. It was a moan, low, muffled and human. Somewhere ahead in the dark, someone was there. Emily froze in place. The darkness of the forest seemed to come alive. The dog growled again, the fur on its neck standing on end. Something was moving among the trees. "Who's there?" Emily's voice trembled, but she tried to remain calm. A figure of a man emerged from the shadow of the trees. He was barely standing, leaning against a tree trunk. His face was bloodied, his clothes torn. "Help!" he croaked, taking a step forward and nearly falling. Emily rushed to him, supporting him by the shoulders. "What happened? Are you hurt?" The man she was supporting struggled to lift his head. It's... He swallowed. It's my... At that moment, a faint squeak came from the bushes. Emily lifted the flashlight and pointed it forward. She gasped. In front of her, standing close together, were two children, dirty, frightened. The eyes of the boy, about 8 years old, were wide with fear. He instinctively shielded the small girl behind him, who was trembling and clutching something ragged in her hands. "Daddy," the little girl whispered hoarsely. The man gasped. Emily felt a chill run down her spine. These were his children. "Oh, God," he exhaled. "You're here. You're alive." He tried to step towards them, but his legs buckled. Emily struggled to grasp what was happening. "They were here this whole time," her voice cracked. "Yes," the man barely managed to breathe. We got into an accident. The car slid off the road. I hit my head, lost consciousness, and they..." The dog suddenly moved closer to the children, gently nudging its nose into the boy's palm. He gasped and pressed closer to it. Emily understood. This dog had been protecting them the whole time, not letting anyone pass, seeking help, and it had succeeded. "Everything's okay," the man said, barely reaching trembling hands towards the children. "Everything is okay now." Emily closed her eyes, tears stinging them. She remembered how just a few hours ago she had irritably thought about the dog blocking the road, how wrong she had been. She stepped closer, carefully crouching in front of the children. "You did well," she said quietly, trying to speak gently without too much emotion. "We'll get you out of here, okay? You're going to a warm house, hot food, everything will be okay." The boy cried, and then Emily couldn't hold back anymore. She pulled them to her, letting them know they were safe. When the car drove onto the road, the children were already asleep, wrapped in blankets. The dog sat beside them, keeping its eyes on them like a loyal guardian, like a hero who didn't give up. Emily looked at it and sighed. "You saved them. You're a real angel." The dog looked at her in return and then quietly laid its head on the little girl's lap, guarding her even in her sleep. Several days had passed. Emily sat in a cafe, stirring sugar in her coffee cup. In front of her lay a newspaper with the headline, "Miraculous Rescue." The photograph showed the smiling faces of the same children she had found in the forest. Next to them sat the familiar dog, its head held high with pride. Emily smiled, remembering that night. She would never forget that look, the look of a dog that didn't give up until it had saved its human family. The bell on the cafe door jingled. Emily looked up and saw a man entering, the same one she had rescued. He noticed her and headed towards her table. "May I sit down?" he asked with a smile. Emily nodded, moving her cup aside. "How are you? How are the children?" "Much better, thanks to you," he replied, sitting down. "I came to thank you. If it weren't for you..." Emily shook her head. "Not me. Her." She nodded at the dog's photo in the newspaper. The man looked at the picture and his eyes filled with tears. "You know, we never had a dog before. The kids asked, but I always refused. And now..." He trailed off, unable to continue. "And now you have a guardian angel," Emily gently finished. He nodded, wiping his eyes. "We named her Hope, because she didn't lose hope even when we had almost given up." Emily felt her throat tighten with emotion. "Beautiful name," she whispered. They sat in silence, thinking about that amazing night that had changed their lives, about the dog that showed that true devotion and love know no bounds, about the miracle of rescue and how important it is not to pass by when someone needs help. Emily looked out the window. It was raining outside, but a ray of sunlight was breaking through the clouds. She smiled. Sometimes, in the darkest moments of life, a ray of hope appears. Sometimes that ray comes on 4 paws and with a tail. The bell jingled again. A young couple entered the cafe with a large dog. Emily recognized the breed. It was the same as Hope's. The dog sat at its owner's feet, carefully surveying the room. For a moment, its gaze met Emily's, and she thought she saw the same intelligent, understanding eyes. Emily turned to the man. "You know, I think that night changed not only your life, it changed mine too." He looked at her with interest. "How?" Emily thought for a moment. "I always considered myself a good person. I thought I was ready to help. But that night, I realized that true heroism isn't just being willing to help. It's the inability to pass by, even when all instincts scream danger. That's what Hope did." The man nodded, smiling understandingly. "And what did you do then?" Emily smiled back. "I became a volunteer at an animal shelter, and you know what? Every time I look into the eyes of an abandoned dog, I see the same devotion, the same readiness to love that Hope had." "You've changed the world for the better," the man said quietly. Emily shook her head. "No, Hope changed it. She showed me what true loyalty means. And now, every day, I try to pass on that lesson." The man reached out and squeezed her hand. "Thank you," he said simply, "for everything." Emily smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. Outside, the rain had stopped, and the sun was shining brightly. Just like that night, Hope had found a way to shine through the darkness. As they sat there, sharing stories and memories, Emily realized that sometimes the greatest heroes come in the most unexpected forms. And sometimes all it takes to change the world is a little hope, whether it comes on 2 legs or 4. Did you enjoy this story? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to not miss new releases. See you soon.